We're starting our meeting now. We'll skip all the gossip from the last 5 minutes. So I'm glad to see, Eric and Christina on. Hi, Casilla, you too. It's really just the core group. I wonder how the rest of the folks dropped off. Any ideas?
Well, I know that some people have already gotten back to me on Thailand stuff, but haven't gotten everybody, so just have to kind of table it for a moment. But yeah, there are some active people. So
I'll do a recording for those who are on, and just for those who are watching, I'm going to do another email. And if you're not interested, please disinvite yourself. So I just keep our RSV in a manageable size and see who wants to volunteer. And no hard feelings. If you're too busy to work on this now, that's fine. You can always come back later on and approach me. But I want to make sure people who are here have some time to commit. Otherwise, it's just not helpful to have a large group of folks if many are not active. So I will do an email about that to the folks who are not on live now, and I will report an update for those who are here and those who are watching the recording. So I'll share my screen and go over an updated document that I've been passing around the last few meetings. Hang on for 1 second. So you've seen this, and here's the update. So we have a Vietnam group with Mika Smith and Christina Clark as researchers, Jennifer for Cambodia, and Cassia here for Thailand. We did some shuffling of our opportunities for grants. The one here, the first one, the PA 18722 for improving patient adherence, that was originally due about a month ago. We couldn't get it together in time. We had a few things that were just straggling for our budget, and luckily we have a chance to resubmit or to submit for the first time by December 15th. So there's a lot to do still, but much more manageable. And that project needs to be moved along, but right now, Eating is moving that forward, and we have Jen working on that and our team there. So that's going to be just moving forward. We have a few hurdles to cross in terms of pulling together documentation largely, and then to focus on me writing our research strategy so it's really top notch. Any comments or questions on that grant? It's pretty much just a placeholder to make sure we don't forget about it and do start working on it again.
Just a real quick question. So I had sent out my list of open questions. Mm-hmm. Has ITing contacted you at all? Is there anything needed from me at the moment, or?
No, but I'll reach out to her. I guess she's busy with something because she usually is very good about staying in touch. So maybe she's traveling now.
Okay.
I'll do an outreach to her.
Okay.
We have the USAID DIV grant, which is still on our middle burner. We want to get that done as soon as we finish the PA 18722 adherence grant. Then we have a new grant on our horizon that I want to go for, even though it's nearly 20 days away that it's due. Mobile Health Technology and Outcomes, Low and Middle Income Countries. This is a R21, which is like a R21, R33. It's like a two-phase. The first phase, if you get approved, you're eligible for the second phase. It's not a very big grant, $200,000. So a lot of my mHealth work's been done with my colleague Matt Boomman, but this grant cannot support translating BWell24 on that kind of budget. So I was talking to several of you, and I decided, especially in consultation with Jen, to take the patient health risk assessment that we've been using in our USAID project and to put a proposal to put that on a smartphone app with some, additional bells and whistles like decision support, patient physician feedback, things like that. That's doable for that size grant. And we need to find a research partner. So I did go ahead and talk to my colleagues in Vietnam, Hanoi, because they were the most active and motivated. And we have agreed to have one of their researchers who has NIH caliber background to come on board as a local PI for this. And I'm trying to get feedback from a second researcher who actually did some smartphone app development also in Hanoi. So I'm hopeful to get that finalized and begin a deep dive on that. On the plus side, we applied for this similar grant to this one about 2.5 years ago, so we can use some of that grant to fast track this one. And we're learning through our other NIH grants the amount of paperwork that's needed, what kind of paperwork, so hopefully we can streamline that for this grant. won't be as complex of a grant as the adherence one, which is a much bigger R01 grant. And just FYI, Mika and Christina, you're welcome to work on that grant if you'd like. This is all kind of breaking news, but you're obviously interested in Vietnam and it'd be a big help. I mentioned looking for help for Mika and Christina to look at health screening in Vietnam for nutrition. Reason being, we have in our HRA 3 items from a 10-item question or 10-item survey called "Starting the Conversation," which is a good measure for USA. It's been validated, it's widely used, but some of the questions don't really seem to be a good fit for Asia. So when you do a search of nutrition screening tools, it's not pretty. I did this before. I did this about 2 years ago in China, and you find everything from government surveys that are like 20 pages long and super detailed to very brief surveys that are not validated. So I want to thank Mika, who did some work already. I haven't had a chance to look at her folders yet, but I will, and see what's out there. And we're just doing due diligence. We need to decide, is this measure doable? Should we have it included as with a validation of another measure, or is another measure out there better? One reason we're trying to keep a consistent set of measures in the HRA, we want to try and keep this intact across or between countries for comparative analysis, right? We actually have the same nutrition questionnaire if it's applicable, real, viable, and valid in Beijing versus Vietnam versus Cambodia versus Thailand. My guess is the starting the conversation will not be that measure, but let's take it from the get-go and see if we can start diving into this deeply. The other survey questions in the HRA I think are pretty generalizable. A few have been validated already, like the PHQ and the GAD have been validated in many countries in Asia already. So that's a summary of that grant. Let me go through all of them. We'll come back and discuss. And then I just sent out this one. I just came across National, what is it? NAM. What's that stand for? I'll tell you in just a minute. Maybe not. I can't find it now. It's a huge grant focused on international work, and it has 3 different categories, and there are many awards.
Is it the National Academy of Medicine?
Yes, thank you. It's for improving healthy longevity.
I'm on their listserv because obviously I work in continuing medical education, so I get a lot of their correspondence, and I was actually going to bring this up during our meeting, Dr. O'Donnell, so I'm glad you did.
Good. So that's my overview. And then, of course, we have just updates for the teams. We have the Vietnam team working very closely, and they're ready, by the way, Christina, to have Tam and Huang brought into that team to begin working on publication on the paper. So as soon as we're ready to have them come on board, they can start meeting with us every now and then on publicizing papers.
Yes, yeah, I know they are ready. So I just didn't, until we had our piece, ready to kind of move forward. I didn't really, obviously we want to do this in stages. So.
Yep. And the same thing, Eric, of course, my colleague Opatra is ready to start working on publication also. So the good news is people are ready, and it should be all of us making the right time and having an efficient but effective approach to getting papers churned out here. So let me stop for a second. Christine, you want to jump in first, Christina, about the NAM grant?
So I wanted to look at it a little bit more. It looks like, so in order to get more information, you can look at this, but there's also a webinar series coming up. And I was trying to figure out, the only thing I was trying to figure out, it looks like it's actually like several days and it's a lot of hours. So I don't know if you can, maybe if it's going to be recorded. That was one of the things I wanted to check into and see if they're going to record it. If you can, because I know I signed up for it, and I think maybe you can get the recording of it if you sign up to it. I think that's like one of those webinars. I went ahead and registered for it.
Do you recall when they start roughly? Are they
Oh my
coming up
gosh,
soon?
I knew you were gonna ask me that. I have it on my work calendar.
Okay.
I know. Um,
I'll look too. I'm happy you got at least start looking at that. That's helpful to hear.
yeah, because I was very interested in it, and I thought it was something that we, as a team, would should definitely look into. So.
And I have no background in these grants, so I have no idea about how competitive they are with but just seeing on paper, they have many, many awards, very high dollar amounts, and it's all global. And obviously,
Exactly.
we're all about healthy longevity, right? So it's up our alley.
Exactly. No, I really thought it was a good fit for a lot of the work that we're doing. So
Mhm.
I definitely think it's something to look into, and I'll look at it further. The past 2 weeks have just been a little hectic for me. I honestly feel like I have just gotten settled back in the United States, if that tells you anything. No, I'm serious. Like, I was just unpacking my bags from Vietnam this weekend, so
That's pretty
because
good.
I hit the ground running as soon as I got back. Classes, full force, catching up at work. It's just been crazy. So
Yep. Now we understand. We're all in the same boat. And that's really one of the benefits of having us as a mutual support group is to have encourage each other, project plans, so we don't just kind of spin our wheels for weeks and weeks and then months. That can happen very easily. And
oh yes,
I think I always hope we'd have more progress than we have right now, but I think I'm very happy how far we've gotten with this team-based approach and things moving forward, if not inch by inch, at least yard by yard, perhaps.
yes. But I will look at that a little closer. I looked at it closely when I got the email, and honestly, I've kind of forgotten. I need to refresh my memory on that. So, but I did want to mention it during our meeting. So I'm glad
Mhm.
you brought it up.
Dr. O'Donnell, so the mHealth, I don't know if you saw my message over the weekend because I know you were busy traveling, but I looked through the grant, found all of the different forms that need to be filled out, and sent you a Word doc with links to all of
Yes.
them and
I
which
got that.
ones.
I skimmed it. I didn't read it in detail, but thank you very much. That was very helpful.
Yeah, it was really helpful for me too because I wasn't sure exactly what ITing did or what the expectations are, the differences, because I know the adherence grant was more in depth. So I think that of the 6 or 7 forms, I think that all but one I can probably different stuff from. But my next step was to kind of put together a to-do list for each person, meaning myself, you, and the partners in Vietnam, like
Hmm.
what budgetary information we need from them and so forth. But I think that one has everything that's required and a couple of optional things. And I think most of it I can probably pull from other places and then just have a set of questions for the pieces that I don't have. So you could probably put me in as the project manager. I'll just
Okay,
kind
thank you
of
very much.
coordinate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll coordinate. But it would be good if maybe you could send out like, you know, an introductory email like, hey, Jen's gonna coordinate and be asking for a few things
Yeah.
budgetary wise and so forth. So
So I sent you the key players, and of course, our colleagues Tam and Huang are all in.
okay,
Um, uh, Another doctor, also named Huang, who's an NIH person, I gave you her long CV, she's in. And the last doctor, Dr. Tu, THU, I've not heard back yet, but I asked my colleague Tam, who knows him, to give him a poke yesterday. So hopefully he'll reply today. And once they're
okay,
both in, that'll be our team right there. Those 4 folks, you and I. We have to
yep,
find someone on our side to join us for the NIH credentials on the U.S. side, either Matt
right,
Glidden or Roger Kessler. I think either will do it. We'll be doing all the work ourselves for the actual write-up, I think, for the most part.
okay.
Um,
Yeah, because the forms now that I had gone through the budget process for the other one seemed relatively straightforward. And now that I found them all, it was finding them all that was problematic
yeah.
because there's just so much information about each of these grants. But now that I know what each of them is for, how to fill them in. Oh, but just one more logistical question. So on the day that it's due, like who actually goes in and submits all of these things? Is it you? Is it Nancy? Is
Nancy
it
Osgood from ASU does that, and she wants to like a
okay?
week before it's due, so we need to really push it on this. And I need to go ahead and submit a request for this to be approved by ASU. Um,
Okay.
they've just gone through a couple of busy cycles. My guests are not very busy right now. There isn't much coming up, I don't think, so that's a good thing for us. But they're getting more to be more sticklers. So
Okay.
if we have all the forms already in progress, when I talk to her in a day or two, that'll look good for us. If we don't, it'll look bad for us.
Yeah, no, I can probably get a fair amount of them together on the way back on the plane. So why don't we plan on Friday? Maybe we can touch base at our regular meeting about this as well. And
Let's email back and forth as we can.
right. Yep.
We can meet on Friday. I agree.
Yep. Okay. Sounds good.
I need to get that meeting. I didn't have rescheduled a meeting either. I need to do that also. Thanks for the reminder. I don't think I scheduled it. I'll do that now. Nope. Eric, any thoughts on any questions how you want to proceed? What are your plans to get the Chiang Mai Thailand group going?
All right. Well, I was going to wait for one or two other people to kind of respond. If that doesn't happen, I was actually going to, Jen actually made a recommendation for an app that, not an app, but a program that we used to use a long time ago when I was managing department at Sun Devil Fitness Center, but it's called Doodle. It's actually very convenient. I just totally forgot about it, but if the stragglers, people who are busy, don't get back to me by the end of the week, I was thinking about just sending a doodle out, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Getting that going. And then after that, I'd like to do, every 2 weeks, kind of like Jen is doing with her project. And first identifying what everybody understands that they have to do, and then trying to find out what they don't know that they have to do yet. And then also trying to do what I can to facilitate the process, I suppose. But other than that, it's just kind of getting everything started.
Yep. And for all of us, when you have some time, Jim, maybe over the weekend, we could try to talk about the analyses updates for the papers, individual site papers for Chiang Mai and Hanoi. You still there, Jen?
Sorry, I stepped away for 1 second. What was that?
I said we're talking about the individual site papers. We need to come back and loop back to you when you have time to talk about the final reanalysis for that data for those papers.
Yeah, and I mean, if it makes sense, we can maybe have, because Thailand and Vietnam, well, the Vietnam one, I figured I would just go over the data analysis at the kickoff meeting for 2019.
Yeah.
But the one for if it's helpful, we could have a meeting just like Eric and I, if you want, just to talk about the data, just to familiarize you with it. Does that help?
I like that. Yeah, I think that would actually be very helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. So why don't we just find 30 minutes, and I'll kind of talk you through what we have. And I think you have the files already, don't you? But I think it would probably help for me to talk you through it still.
You can invite me too, just for a refresher for me. I wouldn't mind going through it again.
Sure. Okay. I'll find a time for the three of us. And then for Christina, I was going to go through that with you, Mika, and Dr. O'Donnell at our kickoff meeting next week.
That sounds great. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
One FYI, I know you gave me an email a couple months ago with missing data. If we have missing data from those two sites, we probably should use this opportunity to have it go to our now involved leads and have them see if they can start scrambling to find anything from medical records, for example, if it's available, if it's biometrics, for example. Maybe we
do you want me to send that list again?
I have. If you want to send it, go ahead.
You do?
Sure.
Okay.
Maybe send it to everybody.
Okay.
For each team.
I'll make a note. Yep.
Thanks. That was very helpful. We also got to figure out which journals to target. So for the folks who are doing the research for Vietnam and Thailand, if you come across journals you're reading about this kind of research, think about which one might be good for us to target for publication. You just give us names based upon the articles, the content, and then I can have my colleague, Shiyu Wu, social worker, help me to evaluate the impact rating of the journals, and is there any kind of fee associated with applicating, with submitting an article or not. We're trying to target, obviously, high impact journals that don't have a fee required for submitting an article.
I have something. Gosh, this was a while ago now, but so I can't really remember all the details. But there was a tool that actually measures the impact of various scientific journals. So if I can remember it, I'll make sure to share that with you. I don't know if you are familiar with it at all, but
I'm not, but I think Shiyu is, and he referenced that. I think it's an online
Okay.
tool you can use to see what journals' ratings are. But if you find it, sure.
Okay, wonderful.
Well, last of all, Christine, our U of A medical student, is still planning to work on a paper on looking at the PHQ-4 results, the PTSD civilian scale, and the somatic symptom scale for all countries. So she'll work on that with my guidance also.
And remind me, am I sending her data? Does she have our data?
If you can just send her the link to the existing data, I take that back. I'll give her the concept paper. That's all she needs for that paper, right?
I think so. I mean, that has all the means, but you know, maybe if you want, when it makes sense, I could set up a meeting with her as well to just kind of talk about what data we have and the different scales and everything. So
All right.
the concept paper only has the means. If you want to see, you know, anything in more detail.
No, you're right. You're right.
Yeah. Does it make sense in the short term to set up something with her, or in the longer term?
I think short term, because she has limited time available right now, I think, and my hope is really have to push forward and get 4 of these papers kicked out by end of the year, which would be great.
Okay.
And I think that's feasible too, because they're not complicated. Once we do one, I think the rest will become easier and fall into place pretty quickly.
Right. Can you just send me her contact?
Yeah, I'll introduce you by email to her.
Sure. Okay.
I have her
Thanks.
reply a couple of days ago. I have not replied to her yet, so I'll just add you.
Okay.
Well, last of all, we have conferences coming up. I think my email had a mistake in it. We're having an Arizona State University Integrated Health Conference. It used to be in early March. We're changing that date to, this is wrong here, May 26 to 28. And I just saw an announcement recently I sent to all of you for a interprofessional focus conference also in Phoenix, April 20th to 22nd. So if you're local and want to work on those, I'm sure I'm going to submit something. We should certainly submit to the ASU one. Even if you can't attend, you want to have a publication or a presentation on your resume, and you want to work on the PowerPoints, you're welcome to do that. For folks who are remote and can't make the trip there. And for those who are local, if you want to certainly attend and present, that'd be great too. The focus of the conference for ASU is going to be in population health, team-based care, and integrated health. So I think we can certainly use our research under that rubric or the umbrella. And Cambodia, just another update. Virya Koi, I think, completed data collection and I think entry, or is nearly done with entry for the second of 3 sites. So moving forward there step by step. For those who are listening, if anybody wants to help, we probably need most help on this mHealth grant, given the November 20th due date. That'll go to the front of our list in conjunction, still working on the adherence grant. When those 2 are done, we'll then switch gears to the USAID DIV grant. We shouldn't wait too long for that, but to be honest, once those 2 are done, we can almost copy and paste much of the information from those into the USAID DIV grant.
Do you remember, and I'm sorry if I missed this, the timing on the National Academy of Medicine grant?
When it's due? The due date?
Yeah, I was just curious.
I don't recall, but I know it can't be too soon.
It can't be because they are not doing the actual webinar series until I want to say, I believe it's sometime mid-November. So
I think they're due in January.
yeah,
That's my
it's
recollection.
As long as it's not due like November 18th, because we have the other one due November 19th.
no, because they're doing this. It's like a webinar series to discuss it. And that's like I said, I remember it was almost like a week long. It's kind of weird, but I remember
Okay.
it was it was pretty long. And that was just to actually announce it and discuss it, and I'm actually thinking about it now. There was a huge focus on the aging population,
Mm-hmm.
and so, but I still think we could tie in some of the things that we're doing to that. We'd have to be able to, word things very creatively, or just, focus in on that particular age group population. So,
Well, and a lot of our data was, just because of the diagnosis that was required, is the older population.
yes,
So
I
I guess it kind of just depends on how you want to define aging, but
right.
but yeah, I think we have plenty of data. So
Yeah, I agree with you, John.
Anything else, folks?
For presentations, if the date was moved for the Integrated Care Conference,
Yes,
do you know?
that was intentional because we just felt that having it during spring training was a barrier for the students who wanted more affordable in terms of air travel and hotels are pretty high during that point. So
Right.
I volunteered to lead the planning committee on that, and we're trying to really make this a stronger conference with a real better representation from both local and national attendees. I formed a committee largely based of students and graduates of DBH, which are really excellent groups. So we had our first kickoff meeting today, and we have a project planner from ASU who's done a great job the last couple of years. Marcus, who's leading us on that project on the operational side.
yeah, Dr. O'Donnell had told me that he was bored and needed more work to do, so he volunteered.
I was going to say, you really want to lead a planning committee? Because I can tell you how much work is involved in that, Dr. O'Donnell.
Well, there's always ulterior motives. Number one, Marcus is the operational guy, so my role is just to get people to agree to present. And that's a huge, important piece. That's the upfront work. Secondly, I have my own hope to get some funding if we get enough fundraising to invite my international colleagues to come, which would be fantastic. If I wasn't involved, that wouldn't happen.
Yes.
I was looking for an angle to have our international work move forward.
Okay. Do you think that'll happen this time around? Do you think that can happen this time around?
I have it on the table right now. Let's do it if we can. They're right now working on fundraising, so it all depends what kind of money.
Oh my gosh, that would be fantastic. That makes me very excited.
Having that idea is not the same as having the money, so let's take one thing at a time.
I hear you. Well, let me know.
The opportunity. And last of all, nobody else from DBH stepped up. If I didn't offer to step up, we'd have postponed it for a year. I didn't want to do that, so I thought it was a worthwhile effort.
Okay. Well, I'm heavily involved in that here, obviously, for Wake Forest. So if there's anything I can do, let me know. Because, I mean, obviously, like I do a lot of that here. So.
And also, my travel schedule, after early December, I don't really travel until March or April because you have all the Chinese New Year. Things kind of shut down late January through February there. So that's a good thing to get things working, get things done here, make another push.
Okay. Well, that sounds good.
I was in China a week ago doing a training for doctors in cardiovascular or cardiac rehab hospital, physicians, nurses, psychiatrists, psychologists, counselors in Guangzhou for 2 days. That was very good. Motivational interviewing and mindfulness-based stress reduction. I also met with the Guangzhou CDC, Center for Disease Control. They have a couple of projects they're trying to work on now. They haven't got deep pockets, but they do have a lot of research funding support. So it'd be great to get some work back in China going again. I've had nothing there for a while, so I'm happy about that.
Excellent.
And then I'm traveling back to China for a conference for a couple of days, late November. And I plan to, if all goes well, go back to Hanoi and keep those current projects going, as well as try and get the Bach Mai MOU signed for the hospital there. That's in progress now too. So I look forward to having all this done so I can then sleep for like 3 weeks in December.
Yes. That's what I keep saying. I'm going to be like, oh, I can sleep in December.
I'll be skiing, not sleeping. I'm kidding.
I have a feeling that all of us will likely find other things to do besides sleep, even though I always say the same
I know.
thing.
I know.
If I could just sleep for a weekend, I would feel so like reinvigorated, and yeah. It
I
never
always say
happens.
sleep is for babies.
Well, there you go.
It's one way to look at
Or
it.
you can also say you can sleep when you're dead.
I don't say
Or
that.
cats, because my cats do sleep about 16 to 20 hours on average a day. So
Yeah, cats and dogs. They enjoy that.
Anyway, you guys, thanks for all of your support. Really happy with the hard work you're all doing. I'm happy to see us making progress. You know, there's a good 6 months where things weren't happening. So I'm just really happy we're taking a better, more systematic project-based approach, and it really is beginning to pay off. So we're getting close to our first round of publications. I'm just excited about that.
Awesome.
Hopefully we have our first round of grant approvals coming on the heels of that. With some money in our pockets.
yes.
All right, folks. Anything else?
No, thank
I
you.
don't think so. I'll be emailing you the next couple days about Vietnam.
Sounds good. Have a good night, all. Thank you.
All right.
See you.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.